Hi guys, Mark here with Wolters World, and we're in Lisbon, Portugal. And today we're going to talk about is 10 things to think about before visiting Europe if you have mobility issues, limited mobility. Maybe you're in a wheelchair, or you can't make up the steps so well. There's just some stuff that we really need to talk about, and this is for a few of my viewers who had commented and asked, Mark, could you please give me some ideas? I'm in a wheelchair, I want to know what I should do, what should I think about beforehand, so they're better prepared. And that's one of the big things, is being prepared before you go, doing your research, and this is one of those things. So I've got the top 10 things that you should think about before you go to Europe if you have limited mobility. Now before I do this, what you have to realize is there's no ADA, there's no American with Disabilities Act here in Europe, or EDA, which I get really frustrated with, because I've been lots of places in Europe where they're like, oh, people in wheelchairs, they like to stay at home. Like, no, they don't. And you're going to see, I'll talk about the mentality kind of thing out there. So just be prepared. Don't expect to be people as accommodating, and a lot of the sites there's going to be issues. But let's go through these top 10s. Now the first thing you want to make sure beforehand is when you book your hotel, this is very important, because European hotels are not made for handicapped travelers, okay? The elevators are tiny. Like literally my wife and I can fit in with a suitcase. When we go, we have our son in his stroller. My wife goes up with a stroller. Next elevator, I go up with our son. Okay, so there are issues there, so you want to make your hotel, are you handicap accessible? Because sometimes it's hard even to get in the front door because it's steps going in. That's a big issue you're going to face. So ask about, hey, the steps to get in, the elevator, these kind of things, because your biggest problem is going to be getting a hotel that's going to be working for you, because you're going to be spending more money for the hotels that do have the handicap access. Okay, so I just want to warn you about that. Also, when you are booking your hotels, make sure you realize that location is going to be prime, because getting around in cities in Europe isn't so easy for wheelchair-bound travelers. So location where the hotel is, it's worth to pay the premium to be where you have the least amount of movement and travel you have to go to. Okay, and that leads us to the second thing, is public transport in Europe. Guys, I will say the buses around Europe, they do have they decline down and they have the ramps to come in. That is one thing. In the 15 years I've lived in Europe, I've seen an amazing difference, much better than the US, I think, in that respect. So you will be able to get around with buses. However, the metros, the subways, these kind of things, not every stop is handicap accessible. Here in Lisbon, they put signs that says when it is handicap accessible, but the problem is that handicap accessible sign, those elevators don't always work, so you could get stuck in a station. Or they only have it within the station, not getting out of the station. So be careful with that with the public transport. Do your research beforehand. Make sure the stops have the handicap accessibility, okay? The elevators and these kind of things. Number 3 on the things you need to realize is, guys, Europe, it's all made out of these stones. Cobblestones everywhere, and it's going to be tough to go over. They don't have, the cobblestone streets. There's the sidewalks. They don't have the decline going in a lot of times, so it's a lot of drop-offs. Cobblestones, getting a wheelchair over that. That's a lot of the travelers that have written to me say, hey, that's one of the biggest issues. A lot of people say, oh, Amsterdam, it's flat, but the problem is the cobblestones are so bad that it makes it tough with your wheelchair to get around. Okay, so you want to think of that. Another thing you want to look at is, in general, for number 4, is Europeans treat limited mobility people kind of strange. Okay, like I said before, I've had people tell me, oh, well, he's in a wheelchair, they like to stay at home. Obviously you don't want to stay at home. And it drives me crazy, because people will really look at you like, oh, okay, you're limited mobility, all right. Sometimes you get frustrated. I get upset. I have no limited mobilities. I just have some fans and some friends that are, and I get pissed off because people treat them like they're, they have the plague or something. So be ready for that, for strange looks. All kinds of stuff. And the thing is, it's fantastic. You're coming to show, look, we have a real life. We can go out and do things. So that's one of the things. But just be prepared for that, okay? Number 5 on these things, make sure you do your research beforehand in terms of sites, the cities to see. They actually have, it's called the EU Access City Awards. For 3 years they've had awards. For Berlin has won, who else? Sevilla in Spain has won for like the most handicap accessible cities in Europe. Check these out. I actually have a video on the top 10 handicap accessible cities in Europe, or that are worth traveling to see, because some are really accessible but not really worth seeing. So I'll have to check out that video. It's from here in Portugal as well, and honestly Portugal's not really handicap accessible, so I'm just here right now, so I thought I'd put this video together, but just so you know, okay? But you want to do your research beforehand for the sites, because for example, you may think, oh, Paris, I don't know if I can get places, but you know what, the Musée d'Orsay, it's completely, the ramps and elevators, it's perfectly accessible, simple to get in. So you're like, oh, I never would have thought of that. There are places to do the research beforehand. Sometimes it's worth it to pay a guide to let you know, okay, and that kind of helps, okay? Another thing, going back with the Europeans, they're not going to empathize. They might not show you where the elevator is or hold the door for you or little things like that, so be prepared for that. Another thing is, number 7, if you look at the restaurants are usually kind of small, so they try to stuff as many people and chairs in there as a time. I'm a heavy-set guy. I've lost like 60 pounds or 30 kilos. I still have a hard time getting into the seats, getting through the aisles, so it might be hard to get your chair through some of the aisles in the restaurants, so I suggest you pick the right season, come in the springs, in the summers, falls, whatever, where they have the outdoor cafes, so you can sit there at the cafe outside and enjoy that. You don't have to deal with all the BS inside. Okay. Other things you want to look at are the toilets. Now, here's the thing with Europeans. Sometimes they'll make it inside the toilet will be totally handicap accessible. Unfortunately, they make the door this big, so it's all right there. But how do I get from my chair to the toilet and these kind of things? So sometimes send a scout out to check. Hey, can I make it in the bathroom? Even though it says it's handicap accessible, you want to watch out for that. Also, some places they'll have like a porcelain toilet, but it's a hole in the ground, so sometimes that can be an issue, so make sure you're ready for the enjoyment of European toilets. Believe me, it doesn't matter if you're limited mobility or not, they're always a fun time. Okay. What other things to look at? I mean, do the planning first. I mean, the research, the planning, have your days planned out and have that plan B. What if I go to this museum and the elevator is broken? What are the other things we can do? And that's why a lot of these things are do your research beforehand, because you can always have the backup kind of stuff, okay, overall. Also, number 10, I guess I would say, is remember to have fun. I'm talking about all these like bad things about Europe for handicap or limited mobility people, but honestly, it's not that bad. You can still enjoy these beautiful scenes. You can still go to most of the museums, all kinds of stuff. Do not let limited mobility keep you from visiting Europe. Just be prepared for it beforehand, okay? Now, I don't want to insult anybody with this video. I'm just trying to help out because we've had so many requests for this, and I really appreciate the people that help me out and the research out there. Please check out our video on the top 10, or my top 10 cities to visit in Europe if you have limited mobility. Great cities to go to. Hope you have a great time. If you have any questions or comments or hit stories, please leave in the comments below. Other things you want me to talk about, I'd love to help out. So I'll see you later. If you want to learn more about traveling, Europe or the US or South America, check us out on our website at www.woltersworld.com. We're also on Twitter and Facebook, and we'll hope to see you there. And bye from Lisbon, Portugal.